with the Amazon business, we could have you build out a business in 2 years and sell it for 7 figures, even 8 figures.
Yeah.
While you've been traveling the entire time.
While you've been traveling the entire time is right.
I love living your best life. Welcome to Seven Figure Entrepreneur Podcast, the #1 podcast bringing behind the scenes with real online earners. No fake gurus here. And today we have the wonderful Shaahin Cheyene. I'm excited to have you, man. Excited to hear what it is you do. I think you got a book right there. I'm assuming that is yours. Pumped to hear about that. And we got the wonderful Tyler Devon. We are cross coordinating.
That's right. Planned, unplanned.
Planned, unplanned. He never wears a hat, but here we are today. Hat and all.
It's rally time.
Yes. I'm excited. We haven't done a podcast for a bit now. How long has it been? Like 2 weeks?
Been a few weeks, man.
Yeah, Tyler's too busy traveling the globe. I'm too busy not traveling the globe because I'm stuck in Canada, but here we are. Yes.
Yeah, honored to be on, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Likewise. Yeah. Man. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Really excited. I like your podcast setup, dude. Like you got it going on back there. You got the TV with the slides going through. Like that's smart. That's a smart setup. Me, I got one light bar and a dark room. So
yeah. Well, we do a lot of content production here. So, when COVID happened, I figured I'd have to, bring my studio home. So it works well.
No doubt.
Nice. Very
cool.
Give
us a breakdown of what it is you do just to fill all the listeners in.
Yeah. So do you want me to start from the beginning, like my history, or just what I'm doing right now?
Let's maybe touch on what you're doing now and then let's go on the history of it.
Sure. Yeah. So now I teach people how to create predictable recurring revenue streams by selling on the Amazon platform. And what that means is, in 2009-ish, Bezos opened up the Amazon platform to third-party sellers to be able to sell whatever you want on there. I had a supplement, which I came from the supplement field, which we could talk about a little bit. A very high-end supplement. It was about $120 a month, and was trying to find a way to distribute it. I was thinking going direct to consumer. We had a subscription model built out, and I decided, you know what, let me try this Amazon thing. It's cool. Bezos announced, hey, we're not just selling books anymore. Come on down and sell. I put it on there, went to sleep, didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, whatever, maybe we'll get one or two. Woke up in the morning, we had hundreds, close to 1,000, something like that, sales.
Are you serious?
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. Can I curse on your show?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. It was like the Wild West. It was like, there was no competition. We were the first supplement on Amazon. It was like, they were pumping thousands of dollars in advertising on Google and Facebook and everywhere you went. And it was glorious. I mean, we made millions. And what happened was people started coming to us, and we stopped everything that we were doing. And we said, hey, let's figure out how to crack this algorithm and sell on this platform, because this is the next big thing.
No doubt.
And people started coming to us and asking us, how do you do it? Can you teach us how to do it? We've been trying, we haven't figured it out. The market's getting more competitive. And so we started an agency, and then we started a course where we mentor people. We've got a mentorship group, a mastermind, where we teach people how to do what we've done over the course of the last 11 years and to build these predictable recurring revenue streams using some pretty unique techniques and algorithms.
Interesting, man. It's funny. I definitely see a lot of people selling like how-to on Amazon, and like even me personally, being on the online world, I do have a level of skepticism with it. But man, you've been doing this 11 years. You've been in this game for a minute now. That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you guys sell on Amazon yourselves?
I had one brief little run. I was selling like sleep masks, and we got to the point where we were selling 30 or 40 a day, but then we ran out of inventory, had to put it on pause, and it never really got traction again. And then everything else we do is kind of more high volume in the lead gen world. So never got back at it again, but always had like a level of interest in learning the Amazon platform.
Yeah.
We did the Shopify route for drop shipping kind of stuff, but me personally, I didn't really do any Amazon stuff. So it is as it goes from blue ocean to red ocean, right? One of the terms we use to kind of describe things. You have to constantly be refining.
And a lot of people, I mean, think like much like yourself, feel alone going at it alone because they're in there and they're like, fuck, man, Amazon's not answering my calls. I just get some dude in India, you know, the phone keeps getting disconnected, because Amazon doesn't really care about you as a seller, is the first dirty secret of Amazon. They really don't give a fuck. They just, you know, they want to have a long tail business model. They want to have the most customer centric company in the world. And they do care about their customers. They don't care about you as a seller, and they don't care about the vendors, not really. So they like to make their public image like they do. So as a seller, you got to really be looking out for yourself. And not only that, you got to be ready to adjust and turn on a dime and break on a dime and really be able to refine your business. Otherwise, what you experienced happens all the time. You run out of inventory, your account gets suspended, you know, little things happen, and they seem seemingly devastating to a startup business. And that's really how they weed out, you know, the millions and billions of people who want to be on there and the people who stay on there.
Makes sense. Man, I want to talk about like their algorithm. I want to talk about all that stuff, but like maybe if we can backtrack a little bit, how'd you even get into this online space to begin with?
Yeah. So, you know, actually pre-internet, I started a company, and that was in the early 90s. I was a teenager. You know, we were immigrants from Iran. I, you know, left Iran, you know, when we were 5. I didn't speak any English. And we came here. And by the time I was 15, I was like ready to leave home. I dropped out of school. I left home and basically was sleeping in abandoned cars and abandoned buildings and on the beach in Venice.
Wow.
And the rave scene was happening at that time. And it was a crazy EDM scene, the electronic music scene. And what had happened was that inside the clubs, the supply of real drugs, MDMA, Molly, you know, was completely obliterated. It was gone because they couldn't get supply from Europe where it was coming. And there was a brief period in time where I thought to myself, hey, what if I could come up with an alternative to ecstasy that was legal, that didn't hurt people, that was abundant, easy to produce, and I could sell it through the drug dealers. So it was an absolutely ludicrous idea that
Dude,
really,
I would give you that.
that really never should have worked, but it did. So I walked into the clubs, which I was basically sleeping behind the speakers in those days because I had nowhere to go. And, you know, those clubs went all night long. So it was great. You know, you sleep behind the droning sound of a speaker and then you wake up and it's fantastic when you're a teenager. And I started talking to the drug dealers. I said, hey, bud, you're out of product. You're going to go out of biz, or you're going to go to jail if you're going to sell crap. So sell my stuff. And one guy said yes. 10 guys said yes. 10,000 guys said yes. And by the time I was 18-ish, I was in my office in Venice Beach. We had over 200 employees. I mean, everybody in Venice was employed by me, and all the buildings in Venice were filled with my people. And I got the notice from my receptionist at the time that we had broken $1 billion in sales.
Are you serious?
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, holy fucking shit, they're going to want me on the news. And all the press was outside and they wanted to get me on the news. And I remember my biggest fear at that time was that I didn't know how much a fucking $1 billion was. So I was like, it was pre-internet. I was like pulling encyclopedia. I was like, British billion, US. I was like, is it 1,000? Is it 100? How much do we fucking make? And I was looking around me like in an absolute state of panic because I was a kid. Yeah. I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. I didn't know how to run a company. I didn't know, you know, I was flying by the seat of my pants. And so it led to a wild ride that was the Ecstasy Days. And, you know, we got into—
What were you selling? Like, what did you convince these guys to sell?
It was an herbal formula. So it was pills that were called ecstasy, but they had herbal in front of it. So it was herbal ecstasy. There were tiny little pills. They had a butterfly on one end and E on the other. And it was, you know, well publicized. We've had, you know, multiple Newsweek covers. We were in Time. We were in Los Angeles Times, London Observer, front cover of all these magazines, front cover of Details magazine at the time. It was very well publicized phenomena.
And people, sorry, I'm just kind of curious, like, did people still get high from it, or like, what did they feel?
Yeah. Now, it wasn't like real ecstasy, but it was pretty good for what it was. Some people liked it better, actually.
Wow.
And the fact was, you
Crazy.
could take it, you could party all night, you'd have no side effects, no risk of any of the risks that might come with getting bad drugs or unproven drugs. We produced it in a FDA, approved facility. And so it was big. And then we branched out to 30,000
What a
doors.
crazy idea, dude. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just basically using the infrastructure that existed to like distribute something you came up with. Unreal.
Right.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so it was always distribution first for us. So then, we branched out. We were in Urban Outfitters. We were selling through Tower Records. You guys remember Tower Records?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
before your time?
Yeah.
We were selling through all the record stores. Record labels were buying our pills and including it with CDs that they were selling at the time. And, we were moving incredible volumes of product. And, I talk about it in my book. The book's out in August, I think. And we just finished recording the Audible book. And last night I met with a couple producers that are interested in making it a feature film. But there were some crazy times in those days. There was, Japanese mafia that wanted to take over the company. And I tell that story in the book where I had to fly to Japan and negotiate with the Yakuza. There were times where we had every 3-letter government agency coming after us, trying to shut us down, but nobody could. So it was a real interesting time. And in the meanwhile, I was traveling around on private yachts and private planes and hanging out with celebrities and rock stars and, just having a crazy, wild time. And then that ended. It was kind of like a meteoric rise and fall. And I went on to inventing a lot of the technology for vaporization. So I invented modern digital vaporization. All the e-cigs, all that stuff arose from the technology that we built and patented. And then I took that company and exited. That company went public around 2007, I think. And from there comes to the story that I told you about Amazon. I developed a nootropic, a brain supplement called Accelerol that I was selling, and which led me to the Amazon platform. And I was like, holy shit, this is the next fucking thing.
You had a wild ride in life, huh?
Yeah, continues to be. And now I'm a father, and that's even a wilder ride than all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
I bet. What flavor Xevia is that?
Dude, this is I actually took this from my kid. It's cola flavored.
Oh, cool.
You guys drink this stuff? It's stevia is too sweet for me. I can't hang with it usually.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't mind those though. I find that they're better than real Coke or whatever, but
yeah.
Sorry, off topic. I was just
okay.
Dude, so that honestly, man, that's quite a wild ride going from sleeping behind a speaker to like having $1 billion company and everything else, man. That's unreal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Amazon, man, because like I imagine 11 years of Amazon, it's not what it was.
No, like in the early days, like I said, it was the Wild West. And then Amazon's like, you know what? We're not going to really advertise on Google anymore. Have a nice life. And all the sellers were like, what the fuck? They're like, you can advertise on Google now. So then the sellers had to do that. Then they were like, you know what? We really are going to get on our high horse. And we don't want any fake reviews. So we're just going to wipe any reviews that don't meet our algorithm. So we had products that had hundreds of thousands of reviews, believe it or not. And overnight, all the sellers we know, all the high ticket players that we're in our industry, entire accounts wiped, just came in with a foul swoop, right? Accounts suspended, seller accounts suspended overnight for no reason, no explanation.
Wow.
And, we had to pivot. But, it's interesting because, the students that I have, and, I've got this Amazon course that I do where it's like this course, it's this mastermind. We teach people how to do what we do on Amazon. And the students that I have, the ones that I can tell are going to succeed are the ones who don't look at it like it's a roulette table, right? Mm-hmm. They don't think like, hey, I threw the little ball in the fucking thing and it went around and landed on my number, right? They look at it as, I'm going to hit this nail in the head until it goes in. And if the hammer doesn't work, I'm going to use a sledgehammer. If that doesn't work, I'm going to use a fucking rock. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get it done. Those are the guys that make it. The guys that go in thinking like it's a roulette table. Sometimes they succeed. Sometimes just using our algorithms, they can make a few wins. Yeah. But outside of that, those aren't the people that really end up succeeding and making it. And that's the thing. You've got to be able to pivot at any time. I'm sure you guys know in your world, Facebook changes their shit all the fucking time, right? What you could do 5 years ago, you can't do now, right? It was great value.
Changing it as we speak right now.
They're changing it as we speak. So the trick to this game, the game of selling on e-commerce and succeeding, and especially on Amazon, is being ready for anything and having systems in place to think upstream when those eventualities happen. Like, we're probably in the top, I'd say top 1% of sellers in the world on Amazon. I mean, our company does multiple millions of dollars every year. And we manage portfolios for Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies, like billion-dollar portfolios, multi-billion-dollar portfolios. And we still to this day get accounts suspended. In the early days, we were like, holy fucking shit, what? This is like, you know, catastrophic. Let's go fucking weave baskets underwater or some shit, right?
Yeah.
And now we're like, oh, thing A, eventuality A happened. We've got B, C, and D ready to go. Right. So we've got tactics, we've got systems, and it's just like jumping out of a plane, right? We jump out of a plane. Oh, the parachute didn't work. Right. Okay. So the first time you do that, you might freak out. The second time you might say, okay, so I know what to do. Here's the checklist. I've got a backup parachute. I've got 3 other cords. I can untangle it. You know the right things to do. And really that's what it's about. It's about thinking upstream and having that resilience and discipline to be able to get around the bullshit that these big companies have that, you know, they don't really care about you, right? Like, do you guys really feel like Facebook is like a loving partner for you guys and deeply cares about your business?
No, it's even worse after COVID.
Yeah.
I
feel like I'm constantly stitching up knife wounds.
Yeah. But we've prepared for that, like you said, right? Like, our major thing is like losing accounts or losing users. So we just have backup accounts, backup users. We're always ready to go. You know, it may take us another like few weeks to get back to where we were, but I mean, it's just part of the game at that point. I think that a majority of people drop out of doing Facebook advertising because they're just like, I lost my account. It's over. I'm done. And it's just like, well, no, that's just part of the puzzle, man. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Plus there's so much other diversification. Like, we collect data, we send email. There's other platforms, Bing's platform, you know, there's upcoming platforms like TikTok. Like, there's so many options.
Yeah.
We find being diversified is more important now than ever.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before, you know, that's really, you know, the main focus when we talk about diversification. And another way to say that is foundational thinking. So when we teach our students in Amazon Mastery, which is our course, we teach that, look, your e-commerce business, and we were talking about the real estate component of this earlier, your e-commerce business is just one pillar. It's just one part of your foundation, right? You should have another area of your foundation that's cash flow positive real estate. Great. More wealth is built in this country by real estate than pretty much anything else, right? You should have one area of your business that's, you know, in the stock market, and then another area that pays you to work. You know, if you're still in the business of selling your hours, which I know a lot of us have gotten out of, but if you're doing that and that's the money that you're bringing in for your rent and your family and whatever, that's respectable. But you have those pillars. So you never wake up having a really bad day, right? I might wake up one morning and go, oh shit, there's a storm in Florida. One of my fucking houses got reamed. But you know what? The insurance will cover it. But okay, maybe a couple months of lost revenue or something. But then I look at my Amazon business and I'm like, holy shit, Amazon's doing great. Most people don't know this. Amazon did probably 10x. A lot of sellers did 100x sales during COVID. It was a big fucking disaster. It was the best 2 years so far for business ever on Amazon.
I believe that, man. We saw it even in our business, like anything online. Anyone I've spoken to who has an online business has saw an increase. Some smaller than others, but other people have gone through the roof. New companies were like completely built overnight based on everything that COVID brought. It's insane.
Yeah. There's opportunity in everything, right? No matter what. It's like, especially with COVID, right? Like, I feel like some people were looking at it as like it was doomsday, but then other people were just like flip the script and like, yeah, this is a huge opportunity to make money on tons of things.
Sure.
So, toilet paper.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you got it in the early days, or your health compromised, or if a family member got it, it was definitely a tragedy. You know, there's no question about that. But as far as just, you know, entrepreneurship and business goes, I mean, like they say, if there's blood in the street, buy real estate. Dude, there was blood in the street, and
Oh yeah.
a lot of wealth was
Yeah.
created. And now, like, we're in LA, like everything's open, people aren't wearing masks and stuff, and you're looking around, and I'm like, people are back to buying $7.50 lattes on the corner here, and like it's almost like nothing changed. I mean, the businesses here actually can't get people to come to work because people are getting more money from unemployment. And they're like, well, fuck, why do I want to go work for 25 bucks an hour? I can stay home for 24,
Yeah.
So, and that'll end soon, and things will change. And I know that there are people who went through hardships, but the people that we know in our industries, in Amazon, in e-commerce, they've all thrived. There were huge gains to be made, not to mention on people who were actually in on Amazon, who were doing, who were part of Amazon. Amazon did an insane amount of revenue during COVID.
No doubt.
So I got a question about Amazon, and like I just truly do not know this. What's the time it takes to, like, let's say, set up a store to start getting sales? Because I know from what I do know is it's like you're going to get buried out of the gate if you don't have really dialed in listings, dialed in keywords, stuff like that. So can you break that down a little bit for us?
Sure. Yeah. So you can do this from anywhere. You could actually even open up an Amazon account from Canada and sell in Amazon US. It's perfectly fine to do, as well as selling Amazon Canada. But the fact is that it takes probably about a couple weeks to get approved if all your ducks are in a row. So, you need to have an ID. They're now doing interview calls. They didn't in the early days where they'll be, Rakesh from India will call you and he'll be like, sir, yes, sir, please verify your identity. And he'll look at you, make sure you're the person on the ID. Because again, they're just putting more and more barriers to people becoming sellers because they really don't fucking want any more sellers. They don't even want the ones they have. So, you start your company, probably takes a couple weeks to launch a product, depending on where you're going to get it. If you're getting it in the US or Canada, it'll be shorter. If you get it from, maybe 30 days, 45 days from the time you decide. If you get it in China for your first product, I'd factor 90 days all in. So I'd say from the time you start your company to the time you start selling, 90 days should be a very reasonable time for you to have gotten samples, tested those samples, research product marketplace. Some people take, I've seen people do it in 30 days and I've seen people do it in 30 months. It just really depends on what you're trying to achieve. And so one of the things that, I like to encourage my students to do, and my students on Amazon Mastery, is we tell them to go after low-hanging fruit. Why? So we break down products into different categories, right? So you've got your first base, second base, third base, and home run products, right? Home run product is a product that could bring in 150 grand or more a month. And it sounds like a lot if you're not doing Amazon. For all the people I know in the Amazon field, they're like, oh yeah, that one. There's so many out there. Right? And we've got a number of them. One of them is our matcha tea, which is actually doing millions of dollars a month. If you look at Matcha DNA, our main brand.
Nice.
But we've got lots of brands that are doing incredibly well, but that's a home run product. You don't want to go for a home run product because there's going to be more competition. That's later along the way. That's after 6 months. You can work on that. Initially, we tell people to go for the low hanging fruit. What is there where you can make 5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, easy money, add value to something that's already in the marketplace, do it a little bit better, go in, find out where the competition is weak, and then exploit their weaknesses. Excuse me. If you do that, then you get to close the feedback loop. And that's a big problem with people because people lose motivation, right? They'll start something and their excitement is at an all-time high. And then they get kind of midway and they're still kind of excited. They've had to put some work into it. Life happens, kids, work, whatever. And they're a little bit less excited. And by the time the product comes out, they're like, okay. And if they're not getting feedback by the time they're like well in the middle of the loop, they're like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. And, and then it just goes very slow. They don't have the patience to wait for a home run product that could take 6 months, a year, 2 years, however long it takes, like what we talked about earlier. But with a low hanging fruit product, one of the first base products that we teach in our algorithms, how you can find these, and it's very easy to do, by the way, you get immediate feedback. So immediately you launch, you'll be getting some sales. And that feedback closes that loop for you. You're like, oh shit, look, I just sold 10, I sold 100, I sold 1,000. This is awesome. And then you continue doing it. And then a few months later, maybe you launch a second base product, something that's bringing in 20, 30 grand a month. And you launch a third base product, something that can bring in 50 grand a month. And then by the time you have all those, you've got a good amount of revenue. Then you just take your time. You don't give a fuck how long it takes. It could take 6 months. It could take 6 years. You're getting that home run product.
Yeah. Very cool, man. I love that. What about as far as like I know the first thing, if I thought about selling on Amazon, my first question would be like, how the hell do I figure out what to sell?
Yeah, great question. So that the first thing we tell people is don't come to the table with an idea. The best thing, the best students, the ones that succeed the most is the ones that have no idea what they're going to sell. And I'll tell you why. Because
that, by the way,
we don't believe in building a better mousetrap and the world will beat its way to your door. That's the old model, right? That's disruption marketing, what Seth Godin talks about. That's the old, like you guys are sitting watching the game. And it's like, hey, dude, you want a fucking beer? You're like, no, man, I'm cool. I just want to watch the game. Hey, you should really have a Budweiser. Gabe, you should really drink a Budweiser. You're like, no, dude, I'm good. I just want to watch the game, right? But that worked. It worked for so many years. It's disruption marketing. What came before you guys? Now we're in what Seth Godin calls permission marketing. And the next level to that is what Robert Cialdini, the professor who wrote Influence, talks about, is persuasion marketing. And that is the decision architecture that we build, the language of Amazon, how we can design the architecture. So when people get to your listing on Amazon, that it's very easy for them to buy. They think it's their idea that they came to your product and they've stumbled upon a great find. Like my wife, who also has an Amazon business, very successful at that. She loves going to these like home stores, right? Chicks love doing that. They're all nesting. They love going in there. They dress up, they put on makeup, and they fucking go into these home stores, which I want to fucking get out. I'm like, what do you mean? Just fucking order it online. I don't care if it costs more. We've got money. Like, don't let me in. But they love going in there.
I've lived that conversation.
You have. And the thing that they love is finding that little diamond, that little jewel that may be marked down and it's like under a thing and they find it. And she thinks she comes home with like a fruity candle or some shit. And she's like, look at this great thing. And, there was just one and it was half off and look how great it is. And I'm thinking like,
I've literally had this convo about a fucking candle.
Yeah. They've planned it. They've planned it, right?
God.
It's decision architecture. They've made you believe that. And is that the only thing you buy? No, she's bought more towels and pillows. I don't know how many pillows they need, dude. Our bed has to have 47 pillows in different fashions.
Also just went through this combo.
Oh, you did? Yeah. So it's designed, it's masterful decision architecture. And by the way, we sell to a lot of these stores into brick and mortar because we're diversified. We don't just sell on Amazon. We sell on eBay. We sell on Etsy. We sell on Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Kroger. We sell to Costco and all these different, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Ross, Dollar General. We just did a deal with 99-cent only stores. We're getting some of our awesome cosmetic products, and so we sell all across the board as a way of diversification. But
that's smart, man. I really love that.
Yeah, but where I was getting to is that you not only have to diversify, but you have to be able to speak the language of the marketplace where you're in. So when you're in with Google or one of these other search engines, people are coming to just research stuff. The difference with Amazon is that, yes, Amazon is a search engine. It is a very important search engine, but the consumers that are coming through and doing search on Amazon are ready to buy. Nobody goes on Amazon to research. Not really. People go on Amazon to buy. And if you can reduce that friction, all the stuff that they need to go from, I landed on your listing, to this is the product I want to click and have the nice Prime driver with the blue jacket deliver at my door. If you can make that as seamless as possible, and Amazon's already made it pretty seamless, right? If you don't like it, what do? They take it back, right? So you've got that security there, but you have to have the other elements of influence built in. And if you can make that as seamless as possible, so when I go on your listing, I'm like, yes, that's what I want. Let me move on. I'm going to go watch Netflix now. Or, people's favorite activity during COVID is scrolling through Amazon while they're watching Netflix.
Yeah.
You make that as easy as possible for them to add to cart and check out. You got to
Yeah.
win. And
That's
you can make
awesome.
millions of dollars a month doing that. People do it all
So
the
does
time.
does that come down to, and I'm sure it comes down to a lot of it, but it comes down to imagery, branding, copy, all of that?
Yeah. So we base a lot of the work that we do on Professor Cialdini's book, Influence. You guys ever read that?
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
need to.
So yeah, you
Like
totally
a
do.
classic.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
it's a great. He wrote the canon on influence. He's a professor, and he talks about these 5 elements of influence and a 6th, which is reciprocity. So the first and most important one for Amazon, I've rearranged these a bit, is social proof. So if I land on your listing, the fact is, Gabe and Tyler, nobody fucking believes us. Nobody believes you. Nobody believes me. They certainly don't fucking believe Coca-Cola or, the beer company or the, baby products company, right?
Yeah.
Because we've got a vested interest. We're trying to sell them some shit. So they don't fucking care about a word that comes out of our mouth. We could say whatever, our shit's the best fucking thing in the world, right? And they're just like, fuck you. We don't care.
Yeah.
But what they do believe is Gabe, right? As a consumer, and they believe in you, Tyler, as a consumer. So if you're like, dude, this hat is so good, the rim is so great, and the plastic is so flexible and it's so comfortable and it soaks up sweat great in the top of my head, and it's spectacular, and you say that, they believe you. So the first element of influence, social proof. You got to know how to get reviews, and you got to know how to do them well. And we teach that. We teach a whole system on how to do that. The second element is you got to put yourself apart. And there's a lot of companies that are selling on Amazon now without authority. You need to be the authority if you want to dominate and exploit a niche that's fairly vulnerable. So how do you do that? Okay. So you do that by finding an authority in the space. So if you're selling a supplement, maybe it's a doctor, maybe it's a dietitian, maybe it's an influencer who lost a bunch of weight. So we look at like someone like Oprah being the ultimate influencer, right? Going from a high weight to a low weight. You had fat Oprah, now you have thin Oprah, and she would be ideal. And then you can work your way down from somebody who's accessible to you, right? So then we have likability, which is another one of the pillars of influence. So how's your copy written? Is your copy like, we are the X3622 thing with the 34, whatever, and, please buy, I see so much of that kind of copy on Amazon. Or, is your English bad, and you can't, fucking understand what they're trying to say, right? A lot of foreign companies do that, right? It's like, take a fucking minute and hire somebody who speaks the language of the country that you're selling in. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's easy to do. And it shows that you have respect for the culture, but also, for your customers. And so writing in a way where it's like, we're just buds hanging out, talking like this, people will believe you more. Scarcity, showing that the product isn't going to be around forever. Maybe you've got a limited supply of it, right? And of course, reciprocity, where we talk about having, giving them something to get something in return. So in the case of Amazon, it might be after they buy, you contact them and you give them something with no expectations, and they feel guilty and they'll leave you a review, or they'll do something else nice, or they'll buy more or something like that. So that kind of thing tends to work. And there's lots of these little hacks and tricks that we teach. There's ways to get reviews and ways to work the system. And, I've got a 1-hour crash course. We don't sell anything in the course. I have a larger mastermind and course where we take people into, if people are interested. But, for your, you guys, for your listeners, if it's okay with you guys, if they're interested, I'll give that course for free so they can take that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
And it's all you need. You really don't need to pay a single penny to learn how to sell on Amazon. We teach everything from A to Z. You don't have to pay any money. I'll share the course with you for free. And they can just reach out to me directly. I answer every email direct myself. And sometimes it takes me a minute, but, and then if you think you want to go further, once you've started your Amazon business or you've learned about how to do it and you think you want to go further, then I'm happy to have a call and see if you might be a fit for our larger program.
Nice.
We'll plug the link below this video. Sorry, Tyler?
I was going to say, so do you kind of like, do like a personal interview with everyone before you bring them in? And then is it more of like a group style, or how do you guys approach it?
Yeah, so it's 100% personal interview. So every single person, I don't have one of these big courses, and I'm not one of these fucking dudes that's like, check out my Lambo, check out like the babes in my fucking yacht and like my mega mansions and like all that shit, right? I do this for a living. We make millions of dollars a year selling on Amazon. It's well documented. I'm many times over a millionaire. I no longer need the money, but I do it because I like empowering people. So our mastermind group and our course is pretty limited. Right now, it's just about under 100 people. We will probably never get to the thousands of people. We break it down in pods of 100 people. We have a weekly coaching call where people can come in and they'll coach, but they also have access to resources like my staff who, they normally bill out at $500-$600 an hour. Everybody in my course has access to everybody in my staff and access to me and all the systems and everything we've spent, the last 11 years building out. And it's FBAsellercourse.com. If anybody's interested, you can go on to FBAsellercourse.com. There's some free information on there that you can check out. And if you reach out to me on my email, I'll share my email with you guys after this. I'm happy to have a call with anybody who wants to. And also, guys, we have a podcast too, which I'd love to get you guys on at some point and talk about Facebook marketing and whatnot, called Hack and Grow Rich. And we have some great guests on there. We have Chris Voss, the FBI negotiator, who wrote Never Split the Difference. You read his book. Yeah. So Chris wrote the introduction to Billion. And we're very excited to have him on. Dr. Michael Bruce, America's Sleep Doctor, many times on Dr. Oz and Oprah, Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, Keith Ferrazzi, Jay Samit. We've got all these great names on. So if you guys look up the Hack and Grow Rich podcast, wherever podcasts are found, please, subscribe and join us. And for Billion, we also have a podcast called Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And the book will be out in August of 21. So
nice.
We're psyched about that.
You're a busy guy.
That title, King of what?
Billion, How I Became King of the Thrill Pill Cult. And the first chapter is available on the podcast. So I'll share that link with you guys, and you can share it with your audience. And I think they can, hopefully find some value in it.
That's cool.
We'll plug it all below this to make it easy for you guys. And if you're listening on like an actual podcast, then come over to YouTube and click some shit. So
dude, getting back to Amazon, what I really liked about what you said was how you guys are on so many different platforms and how you have so many channels. Is that something you teach in your course?
Yeah, absolutely. So, once you speak the language of Amazon, which is what we teach, you can take that and apply it to pretty much any other channel. So like we do that with Etsy. Like my wife started an Amazon company and she was super successful at it, did really well. She was doing things like greeting cards. And it was crazy because using our algorithms in 90 days, she outsold Hallmark on Amazon, which is crazy. It was bonkers. And then she said, hey, I'm making really flowery, fruity stuff. Why don't I try to sell it on Etsy? And she did Etsy and she doubled her sales using the exact same copy, image sets, all that stuff. Wow. But she had to tweak it a little bit because the people on Etsy want to believe that everything that's sold on there is handmade by some old lady in the US. So she tweaked her marketing message a little bit about that. And she's been crushing it on Etsy. And then now we've got her into brick and mortar, and, her products are available in, all kinds of brick and mortar stores. And, in a fairly short time, she's built a company that's, probably worth about $4 or $5 million now, from starting it 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's really cool. I buy all my cards on Etsy, man. I find that they're way more creative, way cooler. Yeah. Than going to the corner store and trying to find
Gabe's a power buyer on Etsy.
Dude, I'm a power buyer everywhere. Don't look at my Uber Eats, my fucking DoorDash, my Amazon. Just don't look at any of it. Ignorance is bliss.
I feel like there's some delivery restaurants that know me out here on a first name basis.
Right?
At least they know where I live. That's for damn sure. Dude, could we talk about those algorithms a little bit, man? Because that really has my mind going.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Like, as far as like, how'd you guys start figuring out what worked? And then can you give like the listeners any tips on like how they could use it for themselves?
Yeah. So a lot of that will be covered in the 1 hour course that I'm happy again, to share with your subscribers. But I'll tell you, the fact is that every algorithm has a hack.
Yeah.
Period. We might not know what the hack is, but every algorithm has a hack. And what we learn is that these big companies, the Amazons, the Facebooks, all these, have vulnerabilities in their system. And some of those vulnerabilities are put there on purpose. Why because they can't openly say, hey, we're going to give some seller an advantage over another. But there has to be some kind of balance in the marketplace, and somebody's got to do really well so they can say, hey, these guys are fucking crushing it, right? Look at these guys, look at those guys, right? So there's mixed messages and there's vulnerabilities. And if you know how to exploit those vulnerabilities, you can win. Which is why I oftentimes, I get asked to talk about black hat tactics and gray hat tactics and, white hat tactics. And the fact is, there's nobody who is successful that just does everything strictly by TOS, terms of service. We follow what they tell us to do. Amazon has its own university. Amazon teaches you how to sell on there. It's complete, total, utter horseshit, right? Yeah. Unless if you're looking just for like technical things of like how to add details on the back end or whatever, it's great for that shit. But they're not going to tell you how to beat out your competitor. They're not going to tell you how to do competitive research. They're not going to tell you how to weaponize certain intelligence gathering softwares so that you can find out, what keywords your competitors have succeeded with and how you can come in and dominate those keywords in their algorithm. They're just not. So if you want to win, better believe you got to figure that shit out. And so one way to do it is to just get to work and start figuring out. The other way is to hire somebody who knows how to do it and have them do it for you. And the third way to do it is to join a course. Yeah. And so we always talk about the 3 elements of success. I write about it in my book from my friend Wayne Boss, who's like this Australian multimillionaire, and he goes in and he takes over companies and rescues them, like big public companies. And he talks about knowledge, courage, and action. Right. So the first thing that we need is knowledge, right? The knowledge, when we know how to do something, gives us courage, and the courage leads us to take action. So when we have those 3 things in place, there's nothing we can't do. How do you get knowledge? Well, you can buy it, you can rent it, you can borrow it, you can steal it, right? Not recommended, but there's lots of ways to get knowledge. Yeah. Right. So if I said, hey guys, let's go jump out of a plane, you'd be like, when? I'd be like, no. Be like, fuck, like I've never jumped out of a plane. Like, you'd be scared. You wouldn't have courage. But if we'd all taken a class on skydiving for 6 months and watched the videos and learned the tactics and all the backup stuff, I said, guys, let's go skydiving. You'd be like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Right. Yeah. You'd have the courage. And then the action is actually taking that leap and jumping. And courage gives you the ability to take action. And that all falls into what we teach.
Very cool, man.
Gotcha. But do you got any technical shit for us? Like, I want like the hard goods of beating the algorithm. And then you don't have to go into it, man, because I know you got some of your own shit there. But like, just a few tips for someone who's like looking into Amazon or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean,
right now.
Totally. So that's what we were going for initially when we were talking. There's no secrets, right? There's a lot of gurus out there who are like, hey, buy my fucking thing. It's 20 grand. They upsell you 30 grand, 50 grand, do this, right? They're just trying to get your money. The fact is there is no secret. The hack is hard work. And, building it out, like we're talking about foundational thinking, is that you beat the algorithm by small hits on the hammer's head. So a technique might be revamping and looking at whatever you're doing using those 5 elements of influence. Read Cialdini's book and apply those elements of influence to any listing, to your copy, right? Is your copy likable, right? Or is your images, right? Are they human? Are people looking straight at the cameras? Are your resolutions high, right? These are all things that go into telling the story of your product. As far as hacking the algorithm, sure, there's white hat, gray hat, black hat tactics, there's giveaways. Amazon's algorithm works basically based on sales. So the more sales you have, the higher the ranking they give you on the search engine, the higher the ranking you get, the more sales you get. So it's a catch-21, right? How does anybody ever stay on top? They have an answer for that. When you first launch your product, you get a honeymoon period where they don't know where you are in the ranking because you just launched. And if they don't give you ranking, you'll end up on the back page and nobody ever looks at it. So it'll dissuade anybody from ever selling anything on there. So what they do is the first week that you're selling on Amazon, you get what's called a honeymoon period where they're giving you extra pushes. Everybody will see more sales in the first week. So what you have to do, pre-launch is you have to be ready to take advantage of that period of time. That doesn't mean that you rest on your laurels and let them just promote you for a week and then it all dies off, and it will die off if you don't do anything. That means you plan your giveaways, you plan your promotions, you make sure your reviews are in, you make sure your listing is tight, you get ready for your PPC, and you push as hard as you can during the honeymoon period, during that first week or two where your product is launched. And if you do that, that's a great hack. But it's not really a hack, right? It's not like you've got some Russian hacker like cracking into the Amazon system.
But it is at the same time, because it's like, I didn't know there was a honeymoon phase, and I didn't know that they ranked that on that, right? So when you're doing like the giveaways and stuff, how do you get people to go to your traffic? Like, are you pushing ads to do that? Are you marketing to older email lists that you have, or what may it be?
We do all of that. So we do list building, we do Facebook Messenger, we do sometimes we do postcard mailing. Most people don't know, there's so much noise out there. People are fucking exhausted. So sometimes we do that. Sometimes we have other hacks, right? Sometimes we go to other websites that are highly trafficked and we bring that traffic over to Amazon. Websites that are free, like Craigslist. Most people don't think of Craigslist. Craigslist is like one of the top 20 highly visited sites in the world, and it's free. How do you utilize that to get hits on Amazon? And back to e-commerce, right? Very underutilized, right? What about Upwork? Most people aren't thinking about the Upwork people, but every single person on there who's a vendor in the US has an Amazon account. They buy stuff. They're savvy. They got credit cards. How do you utilize that? Right. So there's lots of ways, lots of hacks to do that. But, there's no one thing that you're going to do that's going to make your thing pop. You got to think 100%. Again. Yeah, you got to think foundational. You got to do all of that stuff. And then truly, I'm going to give a disclaimer that I don't recommend anybody do anything black hat against terms of service. But again, most people do a little white hat, a little gray hat, a little black hat stuff, and that's the way the world goes around, and if you're not going to do it, your competitors will. And then that's where you're going to find yourself. So you got to be at the top of your game with whatever you're doing. And it's really a game of measuring risk, right? You look at the tactics that are available to you and the risk involved with each of those tactics.
Yeah. I'm down for the risk. I like the risk.
What about, I know we talked on keyword tools a little bit. I feel like you kind of threw that in there. Is there any keyword tools you recommend?
There's a lot of them out there. We use one called Helium 10, and I think we're an affiliate of that, but we do, we use a number of them, but, Helium 10's probably risen to the top lately. There was another one called Jungle Scout. All these softwares.
I've heard about Jungle Scout.
Yeah. They give you some market intelligence. There's a bunch of them, and there's a bunch of free ones, but really, I don't work for any of those companies, and I don't really espouse any of that stuff. It's much more about a comprehensive view of your account, and then, organically looking at keywords. But, what we mainly do is we use PPC as a diagnostic. That's probably one of the best tools. Is running small PPC campaigns and then finding the data that Amazon gives you that you couldn't get otherwise from those PPC campaigns, and then using the other tactics and algorithms that we use to optimize those keywords organically so you're not paying for them. That's really one of the best ways to go.
That's awesome. That's smart. Dude, that makes total sense.
Yeah, that's the good shit. I like it. Very cool.
What I was looking for. Yeah, dude, that's super awesome. Again, I really love this strategy. Like, some of the stuff, and I'm sure it's been the same for you, but for us, like, we were all in on Facebook, and then when Facebook shut down our account, like, what the fuck do we do now? And then, so it's just so important to have diversity. Actually, another guy we had on the podcast one time, this was a big nugget he gave me personally, but his name's Scott Rerick. He spent like 9 figures on ads, and he says, think of your traffic portfolio as a stock portfolio. He's like, you wouldn't have all your stocks in one stock, because like then you're not diversified. He's like, it's so key. So I love that you're mentioning this on the e-com side of things, because I feel like that's not something I've really seen before. And being on like Etsy, being on Walmart, being on all those other platforms, I feel like that's so key. I'm actually a little bit curious about the Walmart platform specifically. How would you say that compares with the Amazon platform as far as like how many sales you can generate?
Yeah, so Walmart's probably going to be somewhere between 5 to 7% of your sales on Amazon if you're doing your job right. And the Walmart system is a lot easier to manage because they're not like as crazy as Amazon is about suspending accounts and killing reviews and doing all that stuff. So it's a great adjunct to Amazon, but they haven't yet figured out how to get the sales and traffic that Amazon has. They're trying, they tried with their Prime thing, and they've got their own version of Prime. And, you know, on some things they're cheaper, but you're also competing with Chinese sellers that are shipping directly from China, from the factory, and even taking a loss. So, but you know, again, you can take any of the algorithms that we teach and utilize them on there as well.
That's great, man.
Very
That's
cool.
awesome. What about like I know on or I think on Amazon for the most part, Amazon doesn't show you who your customers truly are, right?
Excuse me. So not anymore. In the early days, they would give you all forms of data. So you would get the address, the name, the phone number, the email, everything. And then they were like, oh, we're not going to share the email anymore unless you really need it. You're like, okay. And then they were like, oh, okay, now we're not going to share the address because we're shipping everything. And then now we're not sharing the phone number. So you really don't get that much data. We have a way of going back, and this is against terms of service. So I'm not saying that we do it, but we have a way of going back and scraping that information and recovering the customer information. So there are hacks to how to do that. Part of one of the
Very
ones.
cool.
Because I feel like list building is so important, especially like, you know, if you have a nice consumable product, that customer is going to want to buy over and over again. So it makes sense to like to be able to access that data. It's got to be huge.
100%. Yep.
Very
Agreed.
cool.
Very,
Dude,
very
it's
cool.
awesome. What let's talk about some of your students and what successes they had. Can you give us any examples?
Yeah. So, you know, we've got a number of, you know, companies. I mean, one of the best examples is my wife's company. It's called Polite Society. You guys can check it out online. And she sells all kinds of greeting cards and recipe tins and very flowery things. And she's been doing very well on Amazon, you know, super successful. You know, it's probably about a $4 or $5 million company now. And then we've got, you know, I've got a guy right now who was in the marketing branding space, like Big World. He was doing cosmetics and stuff. He launched a line of bath bombs. He's doing several thousands of dollars a month every month. We're putting very little time into it. We've got people launching products in health and wellness. We've got people launching collagen. We've got people launching teas. So, you know, our program is really one of like getting things done. And, you know, we really have people, you know, I was just looking at it the other day and I was like, fuck, our students are the bomb. Like they're really fucking crushing it. And that's what, you know, makes me most happy to see now, is to see people building out these businesses. And the other thing is, guys, right now, Wall Street is on fire for Amazon companies. And there's big companies like Thrasio and Perch and Cellarex. And these companies have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. One of them, I think, has raised close to $1 billion. And their directive is to go out there and just buy these Amazon companies as quickly as they can get their hands around them.
I've heard
and
that.
and that's happening very aggressively right now. So I'm getting 4 to 5 calls a week from these companies from Russia, Korea, Japan, everywhere. Like, you know, we'll pay you. Can you show us? We'll give you 30 grand a company, 50 grand a company. Just give us the leads. Just give us the leads. And so these Amazon companies are high in demand. So there's really no better time than now to start your Amazon business. And again, you know, for your listeners and viewers, I'm happy to share that course. You don't have to spend any money to learn how to sell on Amazon. You don't have to buy any course or do anything like that. I'll share that absolutely free with them so they can learn from A to Z how to do it. And it's pretty straightforward.
Very cool, man. I love it.
Awesome. Well, we're at the old hour mark here. Tyler, I'm sure you got a million more questions, but do you have any last questions before I cut this off?
What I do have one more. Like, say, we have people that listen to the podcast. Actually, just found out there's like COOs of companies that are listening just to pick up more online tactics of like substantial companies. But there's also a lot of new people, and I always want to try to give them like good tidbits. And definitely appreciate your course. That's awesome. As far as like starting out your first Amazon store, I think it's important like to, you know, have a budget in mind. Do you have a recommendation of like, you know, something, a certain amount, if someone's looking at Amazon, to really give it a good shot, how much they should be willing to invest in their business?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just under 10 grand is great, but you could do it for under 5. So you could do it under 5K, but you know, under 10 grand is a great place to be.
Nice.
10K to start a business is like peanuts, right?
Peanuts.
You know, Yeah.
Man, we've talked about that. Like, I used to have a bit of fitness studio in South Florida. And I think that thing was like a couple $100,000 to start up.
Right.
And
How's
you
it
know what I mean?
doing?
And it's the scalability of an Amazon store like far outweighs what that thing was ever going to do.
Yeah. And how long it takes to build one of those brick and mortar businesses and sell it, and insurance and taxes and all that. And with the Amazon business, we could have you build out a business in 2 years and sell it for 7 figures, even 8 figures.
Yeah.
While you've
And
been traveling the entire time.
while
Yeah.
you've been traveling the entire time
Living-
is right.
I love
Living
it.
your best life. Awesome. All right. Thank you everyone for listening today. For everyone watching, please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube. And for everyone listening, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Thank you so much for coming, man. Really appreciate it.
You, man.
Loved hearing your story.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
See you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks, guys.